you heard about this? The world is ending today. Front page of the newspaper says, buy this paper if it's the last thing you do.
If it's the last thing you do.
Everybody talking about this story this morning. A lot of Christians believe this is Judgment Day. 200 million people will be swept up to heaven, they believe. For the rest, it will be a living hell on earth before the world finally comes to a finish in October. Ron Claiborne is our Armageddon reporter this morning.
That's right. Good morning, Dan and Bianna. Well, if you are a believer, this is it. Not the end, but the beginning of the end, which is supposed to start with a succession of destructive earthquakes at 6 p.m. local time in every time zone around the world. And a lot of people, of course, are scoffing and snickering at this latest prognostication of doom. But plenty of people think today, May 21st, really is Judgment Day, and some of them have given up their jobs, homes, and earthly possessions to prepare for it.
For 89-year-old Harold Camping, evangelist and now doomsday prophet, the end isn't just near, it's here.
I am utterly, absolutely convinced it is going to happen.
And he's convinced hundreds, maybe thousands of his followers. In the past few weeks, warnings of the approaching Judgment Day have been plastered on billboards and signs. Believers across the country have preached about it and prayed about it. And inevitably, they've been mocked.
This is an 89-year-old man. I mean, he may be right. The apocalypse may be coming, but it's only coming for him this weekend.
But for those who believe this is no joke, 60-year-old Robert Fitzpatrick, a retired New York City transit worker, spent $140,000, almost all of his savings, on hundreds of placards and posters warning of the impending end.
If you're still not saved by the time these events begin tomorrow, then you'll be left here to face Judgment Day.
The apocalyptic scenario begins with a series of cataclysmic earthquakes, like the one depicted in the movie 2012. Those chosen by God will be spared, transformed, and ascend to heaven. It's called the rapture. Those left behind will suffer through 5 months of unspeakable misery, culminating in the end of the world in October. The true believers point to the recent series of devastating natural disasters, the Japan earthquake, tornadoes, and floods in this country, as evidence that this is it.
People think that this is a very special moment in the history of civilization. So when you have a very special moment, you tend to put all these signs together, and you think that, well, maybe this is the special moment. This is when the earth is going to end.
As for Robert Fitzpatrick, he says he will spend his final hours on earth at home reading the Bible and checking his email.
And according to Camping's calculations, the earthquake signaling the arrival of Judgment Day and the rapture should have started by now. So it appears that his prediction is not coming true, or at least it's not running on schedule. So that raises an interesting question. What will those who believe that today is Judgment Day say if it actually isn't? Well, when asked, Camping and his followers have said they can't even answer that question because it is impossible that they are wrong. Dan.
For more on this, we are now joined by the author of a book called The Next Christians. His name is Gabe Lyons. Gabe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan.
Thanks for coming in.
Great to be here.
You know, I know it says in the Bible that the world will end, that Jesus will come back, but it also says you're not supposed to predict specific dates, right?
Right. Yeah, Jesus himself says nobody knows the hour, the angels don't know, even himself doesn't know, only the Father. So it's pretty consistent throughout Christian history that you've seen people who would say these kinds of things and try to galvanize support, but there's no backing scripturally that somebody would know when the end comes.
A lot of mainstream evangelicals have come out and said that they find this story embarrassing, that it's bad for the faith. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, it continues to put in front of Americans this idea that possibly this is mainstream evangelicalism or mainstream Christians, and the reality is this isn't. It's very fringe. No serious Christian denomination really believes you could set a date and know the time.
Do you worry about his followers who are obviously going to be massively disappointed?
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern because you see people use fear to try to drive people towards a faith decision or a consistent focus on the afterlife. And I think the bigger concern is we lose focus on our work here as faithful followers of Jesus while we're on this earth. And that's actually a real problem, and that's been a pretty consistent problem over the last few decades for Christians to focus on the end times versus focusing on today, the here and now.
That's been a key theme in a lot of your work, I know. The end of the world is a big business. The Left Behind books are massive bestsellers. There's even been a movie with Kirk Cameron playing the lead as the world falls apart. Why is this such a big business? Why are people so fascinated, especially believers?
Well, listen, I think all of us, I think as human beings, we want things to be made right in the world. And even Scripture tells us that Christ's second coming is a blessed hope. So I think we all look for things to be made right, to be fixed, what's broken. So there's a longing deep in us that wants that. I just think people take advantage of it when they predict specific dates and raise a lot of money for their organizations based on these kind of prophecies.
Gabe Lyons, huge pleasure to have you on this morning. We appreciate it.